in May, a mob boss by the name of Frank Cali was gunned down, and the individual who shot him was a 24-year-old man who was convinced that the mob boss was behind a conspiracy against Donald Trump. So 24-year-old Comello, Anthony Comello, is the suspect in this case. And at first they thought, oh, well, he's just trying to climb up the ladder of this mob. But in reality, he has no ties to the mob whatsoever. And really, he was part of this community of QAnon. These are conspiracy theorists who think that there's some deep state conspiracy against Donald Trump.
And maybe deep space.
So he gunned him down. He killed a mob boss thinking that this mob boss was part of this anti-Trump conspiracy. Comello was alleged to not have any mafia ties at all, but did have a relationship with Cali's niece, of which the mob boss apparently did not approve. Court documents indicate that Comello may have been driven to kill Cali by his belief in QAnon. And again, this is a wide-ranging conspiracy theory that alleges the existence of a deep state conspiracy targeting Donald Trump. Now, the defense attorney, and this is really the mind-blowing aspect of this story, is trying to make a case or a defense that, well, this guy he's not all there, which I can believe, right? But he says the following: Mr. Comello became certain that he was enjoying the protection of President Trump himself and that he had the president's full support. Mr. Comello's support for QAnon went beyond mere participation in a radical political organization. It evolved into a delusional obsession.
So look, on the one hand, this guy is disturbed. He's tried to do a citizen's arrest in the past on Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York, Representatives Maxine Waters and Adam Schiff, both from California. And he asked the federal marshals to help him arrest Maxine Waters and Adam Schiff. They politely declined. So he was actually apparently, according to the defense attorney, going to arrest the mob boss on behalf of Donald Trump. And he even had handcuffs with him and then wound up killing him.
Yeah.
But this is really the Trump defense, saying my client is so insane that he believes in Trump. And so him killing people should be, he should be found not guilty because he's so stupid. He believes in QAnon and this insane theories about Donald Trump. And by the way, it's a real indictment of the country because there's a lot of people at the Trump rallies with the Q t-shirts, if you guys remember that.
Listen, Cenk.
And it's a significant percentage of the country. So, and this goes to buttress what I've been saying, and I'm super curious what you think about this, Vic. But like, I think that these folks are following crazy people, and they've lost their minds. I mean, whether it's Roseanne Barr, it's Donald Trump. Look, I don't know how you're gonna feel about this because I think you've written songs for him, but Kanye had some emotional issues there with Trump when he was going to speak to him, and I think they're literally following crazy people, and it's a big chunk of the country.
Well, I mean, Trump is clearly mentally ill to begin with, so I can see him attracting mentally ill people. I also think that you got to pay attention to QAnon, 4chan, these uber right, ultra conservative kids really are organizing on here, and 4chan is what drove Charlottesville. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And really, that's the effect of the rhetoric that Trump is spewing, and it's a really slick way to incite actual killing, to stand there when they're chanting, send her back, not say anything, Mm-hmm. Miles Davis says that what you do with the empty space is almost more valuable than what you say, you know what I'm saying, musically, mm-hmm. than the noise you make. And so when you let that fester, then you jump in and be like, oh, actually, I don't agree. We know what you mean, and it's correlating to actual killings.
Yep.
First of all, I was going to quote Miles Davis too, okay? But he didn't even object at the rally, as you guys all know. And then afterwards, he said, "Oh, I didn't agree." And then one day later, was like, forget it. I love that crowd. They're super patriotic,"
right.
And went back to agreeing.
Yeah, so you touched on something so important because we know where they gather online and where they share these conspiracy theories and where they basically list their targets or who they think is part of this so-called deep state conspiracy theory. So my question is, we have a murder now, right? And were there FBI agents keeping track of the conversations that were taking place on these online forums? And look, I just think that after various stories, including Pizzagate, where someone literally showed up to a pizza shop in Washington, D.C. with a gun, and luckily no one got hurt in that case. I mean, federal officials should be hyper aware of what's going on, and they should at least monitor this stuff, right? Because look, there's a problem with mental health in America. And it's not that we're different from other countries. When it comes to the prevalence of mental health conditions, we are different from other countries in how we deal with it though, right? Like people are undiagnosed, they don't have access to mental health care, they don't even have access to regular health care to take care of physical ailments outside of mental health conditions. And so yeah, this problem is gonna continue festering and people are gonna continue getting hurt because you have a president who likes to incite violence.
Well, there's two other things that are different for America than the rest of the countries in regards to a very similar percentage of people who have mental health issues. We arm the people in our country who have mental health issues. We allow them to get weapons, no problem at all. So that's a mental health issue at large for the country. We're all crazy for doing that. And guys, some people get offended when you use the word crazy, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about a small percentage of people who have mental health issues that are prone to violence, a small percentage. But arming them makes no sense. And then on top of that, the third difference between us and the rest of the world is that we have politicians who encourage them. Who are like, oh my God, the deep state, Mueller and his 19 angry Democrats have a conspiracy against me. It's a witch hunt, it's a hoax. They have this thing in QAnon that they think the storm is when Trump finally gets everyone involved in the deep state conspiracy. And then in his speeches, he leaves breadcrumbs for QAnon followers to decipher. Well, when he says things like witch hunt and hoax and they're all conspiring against me, that's your breadcrumbs. And he's encouraging this madness because he himself is a lunatic who used to believe that, and probably still believes that Obama wasn't born here. And all the conspiracy theories that he believes wind causes cancer. I mean, are you kidding me? We're having people in the establishment snicker at Marianne Williamson because of her, self-empowerment talks. We have a lunatic in the White House who thinks windmills cause cancer. So look, I've told this before, one of my neighbors has a QAnon bumper sticker.
Well, it's terrifying.
It is because these people have lost their goddamn minds.
Yeah, I don't know about QAnon as much, but 4chan, if you've ever been on there, you'll realize that it can't be monitored. Everything is anonymous. When you post immediately within seconds, thousands of posts have already covered you up, and it's like, what we can monitor, like you're saying, is the people that are put into positions of power. It's almost difficult for me to be incredulous about things like this because it's like, although it doesn't make logical sense, it makes American sense. America is founded on violence, and that's been the law of the land. That's how we got to be here.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
And I know it's a different story, but I keep thinking about Tater's gonna Tate, right? And it's a story that we covered yesterday about a cop in Louisiana who shared a fake news story arguing that AOC wants to cut pay for our soldiers. Now again, it's a fake news story from a site called Tater's Gonna Tate, but a cop who's given the responsibility of keeping people safe just believed it and posted it and claimed that basically she should get shot.
Look, lastly on this case, this is not like politics, tit for tat or tit for taters or whatever, right? So this is serious stuff because Christopher Wray, who is Trump's appointment for the head of the FBI. You remember how obviously famously fired James Comey. Christopher Wray, now the head of the FBI, went and testified and said, yes, the majority of domestic terrorism attacks are by right-wing extremists in this country. That's just a fact, right? And so, and you mentioned kids on 4chan. Vic, you're right about that. And a lot of times it's disproportionately young males, et cetera. But now these are grown-ass men. That's a cop in Louisiana. My neighbor's a grown-ass man. And it's not just isolated incidents. Pizzagate, look, I mean, they think that John Podesta, Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama are involved in some sort of pedophile ring. There was an actual pedophile ring run by Jeffrey Epstein, who was great friends with Donald Trump.
Exactly.
They're all over video together throughout all those years and all those decades, palling around, talking about women, et cetera, right? And they're like, oh no, the one hanging out with the pedophile is not the problem. It's the people targeting him, because you guys have lost your goddamn minds. I mean, look, I don't want to get into all the Republicans caught as pedophiles. That list is incredibly long. But you mentioned the guy who went in with a gun. Earlier this year, another 22-year-old went into a pizza shop he thought was involved with Pizzagate and tried to burn it down. For God's sake, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, we're not asking you to track all right-wingers. That's crazy. That's hundreds of millions of people. But when you have legitimate issues with people who have lost their minds and are threatening violence, for God's sake, do your job and track it.
Yeah, look.
That's what it is that they need to pay attention to. That's what they need to stop, point blank.
Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.